What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Too Cool Reviews, and today we're talking about Death Note, the new Netflix movie that came out over the weekend. Now, if you're a fan of the anime, I recommend you stay away from this one because honestly, you're not going to be able to separate the anime from the film adaptation. You know, as fans of the novel or the anime and things like that, you're always going to go into the film and just nitpick what didn't make it in from the book or what they changed about characters or what happened differently than what had happened in the book and things like that. So if you're a fan of the show, just stick with the anime. You know, this isn't going to live up to your expectations at all. You know, but if you're someone like me who went in with no expectations of the show, I was loosely familiar with the anime. I knew what it was. I knew about the concept of the show. I just never really got around to watching it. So you know, when the movie came out, I figured it was going to be another film adaptation of, you know, comic books, animes, things like that, where things just don't live up to the original. So I had no interest in it going in, but, you know, I got around to watching it over the weekend, and I liked it a lot more than what I thought I would going in. If you're unfamiliar with the animated series, then the movie pretty much follows the same plot lines as the series. He comes into contact with the Death Note, which is a book where if you write the name of a person and envision their face and write down how you want that person to die, then that person will die. And all of this is explained to him by the deaf guy Ryu, played by Willem Dafoe. And from there, you get the plot of the movie where, you know, it's a high school kid who he's supposed to be smart, but, you know, it really didn't play out that way over the course of the film. But, you know, he had good intentions going in. He wanted to stop crime in the world and, you know, kill criminals and things like that. And he didn't want it traced back to him, so he put it under the persona of a god named Kira. He gives the god a Japanese name to try to throw authorities off his trail and lead them on a chase in Japan versus in Seattle where the film takes place. But once he involves his girlfriend Mia, who has a little more sinister motives going on with her, the film kind of takes a turn and things get even more out of control once he comes under investigation by Il. Now, they made a lot of changes to the character Il from the anime versus what they did with the actor in this one. And if you have a problem with the actor's color, then, you know, that's a deeper issue for you personally. But I'm judging this based on what the actor portrayed in the role and how he performed. And I feel like he did a great job. Like I said, going in, I didn't have any expectations for this, and I wasn't too familiar with any other characters. So once I went and saw the anime after I watched the film, I can see what they did, you know, with the character and what changes they made besides the obvious one. Now, the character Il in the anime, he's socially awkward. You know, he does some weird things. He sits in the chair funny. He doesn't like to wear shoes. He deprives himself of sleep. He runs around on sugar most of the time. But he also is a super genius. Like, this guy is intelligent beyond belief. And he's the one who kind of spearheads the solving of this mystery behind all these killings that recently took place. And in the movie, I feel like they did a great job of kind of bringing over a lot of those characteristics and applying those traits to the character, while also deviating enough to make it different than what the anime is, because like I said, it's an adaptation. But I definitely understand fans' problems with some of the changes, where in the show he's a little more emotionally detached, he's more logical and calm and doesn't really flare out or jump to conclusions or wild emotional outbursts and things like that. But in the movie, he's very emotional, especially towards the end of the movie. And like I said, it worked for me in the movie. I definitely understand fans who had a problem with those changes, but in the context of the film, I felt like it worked. But to get into some of the pros, I really like the character of Il. You know, I found him interesting. His mannerisms and his socially awkward tics and things like that, I found that kind of intriguing. I really liked how he was the one to quickly deduce where these killings were originating, whereas Light was trying to throw him off his trail by making him think the killings were taking place and originating from Japan. He quickly saw through that and immediately went to Seattle to kind of break down the case from there. Another positive was Willem Dafoe as Ryu. He did a great job in the role. I feel like that was perfect casting. His voice really fit the character, and you don't get to see much of him. He remains in the shadows for most of the time, and, you know, he kind of lightly guides Light into different scenarios and coerces him into doing certain things. But, you know, I understand he's a little more hands-on than he was in the anime, where in the anime he was more of a spectator, but in this, he kind of had to give him that nudge to get the ball rolling and get the film on his way. So, like I said, for what you get from him, I really enjoyed it. You know, I feel like you got just enough of him in the movie. I understand, you know, it's a Netflix movie, so they don't have big blockbuster budget, you obviously aren't going to get to see the character that much because of CGI and budget restrictions and things like that. So I feel like what you do get of the character was great. His time on screen was definitely capitalized on, and I feel like he was one of the stronger parts of the film. Another thing I really liked about the film was the cinematography. You get a lot of great shots in this movie, and it's really shot darkly at times, but you can still make out what's going on. They have a lot of horror movie elements going on in the movie where, especially there's a part where a character is investigating an old abandoned mansion, and all of that just looked great. Now to get to some of the problems I have with the movie, some of the characters don't really do things that make all that much sense. Light, like I said, in the anime, he's supposed to be a genius, but in here, he's pretty much just, like I said, a dumb American teen. I feel like that hurt the character a little more because, in the show, he's a lot smarter than what he is here in the movie. And in the movie, he just does things like that just don't make sense. He's walking around the school after he's under investigation. He's just walking around the school loudly talking about the death note and killing people and things like that. And, of course, nobody's paying attention, but in the real world, somebody would have looked over and heard that. Somebody would have took note of that. Or, like I said, it's a police detail following you around. You might want to, keep those things under wraps. But in the movie, he's just a kid who's in over his head. And a lot of the characteristics of Light from the anime were kind of given to his girlfriend, Mia, where she's the person who comes up with the schemes and plans to get the police off their trail and, use the death note effectively, for those goals. They're evil, but that's what works. And in the anime, you get to see the character of Light become evil as he, uses death note more and more in his intentions of trying to save the world from the criminal element. Those kind of fade away as he gets caught up in the game that him and Light are engaged in. That was my biggest problem with the film. I feel like the character of Light, he just didn't bring enough to the table to make it an interesting film, especially if he was given his intelligent aspects from the anime. If he was really a genius in this show, I feel like that would have added some entertainment as far as him and Liles back and forth, as far as, trying to outsmart the other. And you really didn't get that here. It's like Liles, 2-3 steps ahead of this guy, and now he's just on his heels trying to scramble around and fix things. So I feel like that was where the story was a little lacking. I don't know why they made the changes to the character that they did, but in the context of the film, like I said, it still works to some degree. It just isn't nearly as entertaining as what you get in the anime. Overall, I really liked the movie. I enjoy what they brought to the table. I enjoy what they tried to do. I can respect what they tried to do, and I can see the difference in the changes that they made between the characters from the anime and what they did with the characters in the movie. Light, he was kind of dumbed down, but I feel like the characters of L and Ryu, they were translated about as well as you could have hoped in a movie like this. But I would give Death Note a 6 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't the terrible film that it actually could have been, like I said, like Dragon Ball Evolution or Avatar. You definitely had worse, but this is nowhere near as bad as it could have been. And like I said, going in fresh with no expectations, I feel like that allowed me to enjoy the movie for what it was a lot more than what I would have if I went in as a fan of the anime. But those are my thoughts on Death Note. Let me know what you guys thought of Death Note down in the comments. If you're a fan of the anime, let me know what you thought of the differences they made to the characters, what made you the most mad, or what did you think was passable. But with the remake of It coming out right around the corner, I wanted to talk about some of the Stephen King films that were some of my favorites coming up this week. So stay tuned for that. If you don't want to miss any of that, subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications on all my future videos. You can also follow me on Twitter at 2coolreviews. Thanks for watching, guys. This is 2coolreviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one.